I think we're having lag issues.
Oh, here we are.
Well, you sound
Another
crystal.
episode of StreamYard Sucks and Snakes and Stogies.
I
There's
hear
serious
you
delay. We're having
perfectly
major issues with
fine.
the connection this eve.
I got some crazy
Don't know
lightning
if it's me. Don't
storms.
know if it's Phil. I've restarted.
I see you
Marco?
blink. Marabolo. Kind of jumbled that one. Can you see the lighting in the background? And there goes Smitty. Well, everyone, this is Snakes and Stogies, episode 160, brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com, as well as Puget Sound Pythons. I don't know if this is actually going out to you people or not, because as far as I can tell, everything's crystal clear, and I think Smitty's having issues this night. But we're here. We're attempting to make the best of it. And thank you all for signing up. And all right, so people can see the lightning. Nice. That's great. It's actually going completely around my city. I just checked the radar, so I should be okay, knock on wood. But the horizon line is wicked. I reset all my electronics. Smitty reset everything, and perfect. Podrick says he sees me perfectly clear. So, yes, tonight is episode 160 of Snakes and Stogies, brought to you by the Herpetoculture Network. My name is Phil Wolf. As always, Justin Smith is here in spirit. I think he's resetting everything: circuit breaker, fuse box, router, all the jazz. And yeah, again, it's brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. If you need a rack, if you need an enclosure, if you need to upgrade or downgrade in size, they have everything that you'd ever want, from the teeniest, tiniest pin drawers all the way up to the most behemoth of habitats. And go on to Facebook, Morph Market, Instagram, check out Puget Sound Pythons, the Gendra, the king and queen of the Pacific Northwest. Check them out. And people are screaming in the background. I have headphones on, so hopefully no one runs by me with a chainsaw. Tonight, we were going to play a little catch up. We had a couple topics that we wanted to talk about. Smitty just got back from a herp trip with some friends in North Georgia, southwestern South Carolina. So we'll try and touch base on that. Let me check my phone and make sure that Smitty's not. Smitty's text, and I quote, "Fucking ridiculous. We are holding down the fort, Big Pappy." So yeah, kids, welcome to the show. I wish I had more to report. I wish I had more to talk to you fine people about. In terms of my personal animals at home, everything is pretty normal. I opted out of some pairings just because work's been crazy, and family and hanging out with friends and just time to yourself for just mental well-being, you know. And I figured as long as I feed them little boogers, clean their poo, and everyone's fat and happy, they can always pair up next year. So I was also, I think it was kind of a, wasn't a kick to the privates, but it was definitely a flick, like, you know, just a flick when the fuscus did not stick. For those of you wondering, it's water pythons, Australian water pythons. And Smitty, is he back? He's spinning. His icon is spin. There he is. He's there. Marco.
Marco.
Oh, well, I said Marco. You're supposed to say Polo.
Polo.
Oh, there's a bad delay, my friend.
Marco.
Polo. Smitty informed me that there's a delay test that we can do on this thing where he says 1 and then I say 2 as fast as possible, or he says Marco and I say Polo as fast as possible. Clearly, he's not hearing what we're hearing, but that's okay. He still looks good. He's got his Herpetoculture Network baseball hat on. He's got his THP hoodie. He's ready. He's with us in spirit. And yes, he is frozen. Well, as he figures that out.
I'm not frozen. I'm here.
Oh, you're here? Well, is there a delay in audio?
For real.
I think there is a delay in audio.
Help.
This is marginally amusing, but also
there is extremely delayed audio.
Oh, there you go.
30 seconds.
Wow. Do you want to exit and try hopping on your phone as a guest? I can text you a link for the guest.
There I go. What?
Oh, man, that is a 30-second delay. Wow. Sorry, guys. And yes, Kasicki, I did do some herping myself. So I haven't had time to really like hit the beaten path. You know what I mean? I haven't been able to get out on foot. I've really wanted to do some morning hikes. And it's just not in the cards, just scheduling and weather. And I don't know if anyone's familiar, but South Florida is beginning a ton of rain, which is really cool because you get these massive increases of rain. You know, April showers bring May flowers, all that jazz. And the animals hunker down. But then the minute it stops and you get that like 8 to 10 hour temperature increase that night, that the temp comes back up, those clear skies right after the storm, all that low pressure's gone, everything comes out. So I tried to go out road cruising with Anna Maria a couple times. Really wasn't anything moving, barely even any amphibians. I mean, usually we're pretty good for cane toads, leopard frogs, bullfrogs, and there's really nothing. We went out Friday night. Let's see, today's Monday. So yes, this past Friday night, and it was desolate. I mean, we saw 2 or 3 cane toads on the road and then one overly ambitious leopard frog. The thing had to be easily the size of your hand, but it was jumping 4 or 5 feet into the air, and it caught our eyes. Because I was crawling, I was going like 20 miles an hour, right? And you see this thing just doing, doing in the grass, and Anna Maria looks at me. She's like, "Is that a frog?" I was like, "Yeah, I think it's a leopard." And then she saw it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, it's a leopard. It's got to be at least a foot long, like in like leg span, But that thing was booking, so we weren't even going to go try and find it. And that was the only cold-blooded creature that we saw that whole evening. But we definitely had some cool mammal action, which sounds kind of perverse. I should probably rephrase that. Phrasing. This one road that's one of my favorite pygmy rattlesnake roads is also really cool for the obscure mammal. And I mean, we usually get our fair share of possums, which are absolutely adorable because you always catch them off guard when you're road cruising and you see this little fuzzy butt just like waddling down the side of the road with this little rat tail. And then the minute it kind of realizes there's a car creeping up behind it, it turns around, gives you the death look, and then it's like, oh my God, a human. And then it hauls ass. It's adorable, right? And we get our fair share of raccoons. By the way, I found out that if you refer to raccoons as raccoons enough with Dr. Zach Loafman in the car, he'll start saying raccoon as well. I caught him twice with that one. It was great. No updates on my corn snake. I got feelers out. I got people on the hunt for them. There's supposed to be a population of the phenotype that I'm looking for about 25 minutes from my house that like people see consistently. And I was scrolling through iNaturalist and I found somebody found that phenotype like 10 minutes from my house. So I may try and do like some nature walks through like some suburban areas in the evening time. Hey, look at you in the flesh,
Marco.
Polo.
Oh my God, I think we got it figured out.
I think you got to figure it out. You're smooth as silk right now. You're crystal clear, my friend.
Burning hell, internet company.
And yes, herping with Dr. Loafman is a fantastic experience. Welcome to the show, Smitty. Is there delay now?
Hi.
You don't look delayed.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Excellent. Well,
now
we
we're
did.
Be all paranoid.
Yeah, we are. We are definitely going to be paranoid. We did our introductions. We talked about our beautiful sponsors. I kept them on ice for you, Bubba. I did not divulge my huge herping, monumental, once in a lifetime experience event that happened Friday night, but we were kind of segueing to it, and then somebody asked about corn snakes, and I derailed hardcore. What are we smoking tonight?
Underground Maduro.
Oh, excellent. That's a big stick. It's at 62 by 8. Meh. Phrasing.
No, this is like their Corona Doble.
Oh, okay. You just have gigantic hands. Well, I know how much you are not I know how you are not a huge fan of Gurkha, but I am. Man. You are a big man. And I forgot I had these. I had so this is the Gurkha Estate Select. Okay.
Oh.
It's very Corojo in smell and Corojo in color. I like it because they leave an open foot.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is awesome. And I've over saturated these with humidity on accident. And the foot did not blow out, believe it or not, because I've had a lot of open foot cigars that if I kept them too humid, especially like using Pelican cases in South Florida, if I don't burp it enough or like open enough, the feet will blow out. But this one held up, and these were actually in cellophane, and I made sure that I crimped the cellophane before I put them in the Pelican case. But the cellophane was so beautifully golden yellowed. And I mean, they're realistically, they're probably maybe a year-ish old, maybe 2 years old at max.
Yeah, it depends on the wrapper, because some of them that are really sort of oily, like the LFDs and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, if those were in cellophane, those would probably amber up quicker than other stuff that isn't as oily. So it just kind of depends on the blend. But yeah, that's usually a good sign. When I see cellophane that's all yellow, I get a little excited.
Yeah. So these have yellowed nicely, and I figured tonight would be a good night to spark one up. So
that's right.
Well, I gave a quick synopsis as to what's quasi going on in my world the past week. Why don't you chime in with yours?
So yesterday morning, I woke up quick at about noon. Just thought that I had to check the rhinos soon. Turned on the lights, and they were locked. So it's a very good sign. The male has been trying like crazy since I put him in there to make something happen. She has yet to really allow it. But yesterday, like, this is a confirmed lock. Like, I saw the same thing that I saw with the Cyanea, where the female, like, just before the vent, they get that weird, like, swelling to where, remember with my Cyanea, I thought that something was wrong.
Yeah. Honestly, it looks like a massive... It looks like a massive infection.
Like balloons up.
Yeah, or like a
weird,
a giant subcutaneous cyst. It looks gnarly.
So, saw that. So they were locked. That's the first confirmed lock. Not going to pull him or anything yet. You know, Matt said don't pull him, which I wasn't planning to because they're going to be cohab pretty much full time now. And then I know when Rob Stone wrote the Rhino article for the magazine, he had mentioned placing males in, even if it seems early in the season, because it's really hard to catch the ovulations of the females sometimes. So his thing was like, put the male in, leave him in there, let him do the job. You know, don't, even if you think he's done, don't separate him yet. So leaving him in there. Have the first corn clutch should be on the ground within the next, I think, week, if that.
Excellent.
Other corn clutch, I got a prelay shed, so we're probably another week or two out from those. And that's kind of it.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Nothing too crazy.
Yeah, you sent those rhino pictures, man. I was like, what?
Yeah, finally. Finally.
It's good. And nothing from the Jansen eye?
The female just shed. So usually when she sheds, I usually start to definitely keep a closer eye on if there's been any in and out of the lay box.
Right.
Just in case that is a prelay shed. And she did just shed the other day, and I can tell it's hers because it's like way bigger than the males. It's huge. So we'll see what happens in the next couple weeks. I don't really take them out and palpate them or anything unless she happens to be out and I'm feeling willing to pester her, which I'm usually not. So
yeah, it's not worth it.
Just let them do their thing.
Hey, look, Keller got leucistic Texas rats going right now. That's awesome. Congrats, Keller.
Kelly. But yeah, just sort of the usual. Should be going up to BlackBox here soon to get our order. I got one of the XA3s, so that's the 36 by 24 by 18, and that's what the persimmon are going to go in. I went and got around the corner. Neighbors had some bamboo growing, so I got permission from them to cut down like 2 stalks of that. Cut that up. Awesome. So I have my bamboo is cut, and just got to get the board to mount it and get it ready for that setup when I have it. Pretty excited about it. I think it's going to look good. And
hell yeah, man.
Those things, man, they're doing fantastic too. They're both just monsters when it comes to food.
Good.
And the female's growing like a freaking weed. She's put on some good size since I got her. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it.
Hell yeah, man. Well,
got scorpions.
I know. Well, we're going to hear all about them. And great pictures, by the way. I was invited to, a buddy of mine wanted to have like a dude's night at his house. And he was like, listen, either bring cigars or bring bourbon and we'll all just share. And
or bring lube.
Not that kind of guy's night. This was Saturday night. And these guys are not smokers. They're not.
Right.
And I showed up with my little travel case, the one I bring to Daytona. And they were like, what is that? And I was like, oh, this is it's a cigar case. It's like a travel humidor. This one's actually a Pelican case. Like, what's a Pelican case? I had to explain to them. I was like, well, you put, valuables in it.
You put a Pelican in it.
Yeah. Right. It's like, does it have a bird on it? I was like, it does. But no, these are good guys. And they were shocked. They were like, you smoke that much cigars? I said, yeah. And then I was smoking cigarettes in between every couple drags, like I do on this show. Yeah. And it was very interesting because I guess I don't want to say they didn't know what they were doing, but the questions started to come out like, hey, should I do this or should I do that? I was like, well, you could do this or you could do that. It's up to you, And then I told them how to, showed them how to,
as far as like cutting and lighting and stuff.
Cutting and lighting and drawing too much too fast and getting toasting too much, toasting it all that stuff. And then we talked about the different types of cigars, and a couple of them had some decent stuff, and then some others had some meh. Most of the stuff was not name brand. It was like Cuban Delight from some no name coffee shop in Miami.
Bundle sticks, house blends.
But regardless, it was a grand old time. So it was good.
That's people have to realize when it comes to cigars, it's not necessarily the cigar that it's all about. Like you can have a cigar that's not great, but if you're smoking it with the right people and you're hanging out with,
yes,
like it's awesome.
Yeah. But I had one more of those Cohiba Biques. So I smoked that and topped it off with a Maduro number 5, and then I brought some of those veteran tobacco torpedoes, I wound up giving them to a couple of the guys. It was a good time, man. It was a good time. A little charcuterie. It was good. And then what's crazy is, a lot of times when you go to these little house parties where guys are like, oh yeah, bring some bourbon. There's a lot of the same bourbons. There's somebody brings Jack Daniels, somebody brings, Dewar's and some Maker's Mark. There was some Buffalo. There was a Buffalo Trace. Took the words out of my mouth. But dude, there were 3 different bottles of Dalmore. And I was like, damn, boys, like spare no expense. I walk over and they have all the bottles on like this like brick island that my buddy has in his backyard, and you could see those stag heads on the bottle from across the room. And I was like, man, is that 3 different bottles of the Dalmore? It's a whole herd, right? Yeah. And dude, it was fun. It was good. But I hadn't smoked cigars with a group in quite some time. And I was actually thinking about it. I think the last time I did it may actually have been Daytona.
Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of the fun thing too. Like if you have a cigar shop nearby that has a lounge and everything,
yeah, you
spend enough time there. Like you end up seeing a lot of the same guys. It's a lot like a bar.
Yeah. Or especially if it has a bar in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the ones here in South Carolina don't unless they serve food.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They have to, in order to serve liquor, you have to serve food in South Carolina.
Really?
So any cigar bar that has liquor, they also have a kitchen. And I think like most of them don't have like a full blown kitchen. It's usually like something small, like just to meet the minimum to be able to have it. But it's funny, man. You meet, I said that's when I worked at the shop and stuff. That was always sort of the funniest thing is like you meet literally people from all walks of life.
Sure.
You end up having a guy for everything. Like, oh, you know anybody that's a plumber? Yeah, I got a guy. Like I know a guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Lawyers, doctors. There was one guy that used to come in all the time. He lived like up in Charleston, but he was down here for work all the time, and he did like hip replacements. So he'd come in between like surgeries and smoke and like landscapers and doctors of all kinds, and it's just funny like the different people that walk through that door, and you're like, you see them almost every day, and some of them you don't even know their name, but you see them on like a daily basis, and you're still like, what's going on, man?
Yeah, for sure.
It's just bizarre. It's like Cheers, I guess, is kind of the best way to put it.
Just 1,000% is like Cheers.
But there's not really an industry anymore that you see that. Like it's one of those things. Like that was one of the things I loved about the cigar shop so much. And granted, there was always going to be a few exceptions. There's going to be a few douchebags who would come in and just talk shit the entire time, like just run their mouth constantly. But it didn't matter what your political affiliation was, how you felt about whatever president at any given time, culturally, where you came from. Like none of that matters.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's just there for the same thing. And it's one of those things where like I'd have strangers come in that were out of town, visiting or something. And I'd have a, hour-long conversation with them, never get their name, nothing.
Yeah.
And then they'd leave and I'd never see them again. But it was like it was like us talking. It was like someone I had known forever. It's just strange. There's really nothing like it. Like
I mean, Cheers is the perfect example.
Exist. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like there are still a lot of bars, like your local neighborhood bar. There's still a lot of them across America, but at least in my personal experience, in most of the urban areas or densely populated suburban areas, those bars are disappearing, man. I mean, you can have Total Wine and ABC Liquor delivered to your house, and most of the places that are bars, they've transitioned to a restaurant during the day and a nightclub at night, or they've just gone full nightclub. And there was 2 or 3 bars in downtown Fort Lauderdale that we would frequent all the time. And, and like, it was like Cheers. They knew our name. They knew what we drank. It was very personable. And they all closed up, and now they're only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And a rum and Coke is $20 because there's, heavy bass and strobe lights in the background.
Right.
It's a shame. It's a shame.
Yeah. And it's, a lot of people ask me that too, is, do you get a lot of regulars or do you get a lot of people that are just, tourists or whatever? And like a majority of the business that we got when I worked at the shop was regulars, like people that I would literally see every day, every other day. And those were the people that you got to, over time you learned sort of what they liked. And so when something new came in, you were like, hey, this is sort of right in your wheelhouse of what your palate. So give this a shot. And just over time, it just builds, you build relationships with people, whether you intentionally do or not.
Sure.
And it's just, I don't think you see that anymore, especially, like I said, like as hostile as the internet is when it comes to conflicting opinions and stuff like that. Like there have been multiple occasions where I've had guys that, were black and grew up in the 60s, were old enough in the 60s to know what was
Sure.
going on and know how messed up it was. And like to hear what they had to say about the whole, civil rights movement and all that stuff. And growing up in a time like that compared to what we have now. And it's just like, it's fascinating to hear that stuff because, that was way before my time.
Sure.
And to me, that their opinion there and on that whole subject holds more weight to me, just because it's like that was such a vastly different scenario than what we see now in terms of like, I won't even go there, but basically it was like you heard these things and like you had people that were serious, like Democrats or serious Republicans or whatever you want to say, and it's like none of it mattered. Like you could still have debates with people and they could be like, okay, I'm out of here, and it's like, cool, see you tomorrow, man. Like later, like it never got crazy. No one ever got uppity. Like it's just, that's something you just don't get that anymore anywhere. It's wild.
I tell you what, my local spot, I haven't been there in a long time, but just goes to show you that it doesn't matter your heritage or your race or creed or your taste in music. I became friends with a Rangers fan, and that was it was shocking to me. I was like, this person is wonderful. This is a guy that we smoke all the time. We have drinks together. We're sociable. And then I found out he liked the Rangers, and I was like, you know what? I don't even care. It's a cigar bar. It's the harmoniousness of the cigar bar.
It's so weird because I think it's everyone. A lot of people go to their cigar shop after work or something, and it's just been one of those days where it's like everyone's had their ass kicked all day.
Sure.
And everyone just wants to sit down and just hang out, watch golf, whatever. Yeah. And everyone's just like, no one's there for the bullshit, man. They're all there for the same reason. Everyone's there just to hang out, kick it, relax. And like I said, that's not really a thing anymore in a lot of places.
It's not. And I feel like some of those places, like I was saying earlier, it is until 9:00, and then the music gets raised and the lights get dimmed, and you're like, what the hell? And that turns into a nightclub, and I want to go home.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And we with some of the regulars we get too. We had this old guy. He's no longer with us. But he was like so hardcore into the conspiracy stuff, like Project Blue Book.
Geez.
And like, so you'd sit there and he'd come in, and sometimes I was in the mood for it. Sometimes I was like, oh fuck, here we go. Cause he'd sit there for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
You had some lounge lizards every now and then, and some of them you loved, and some of them you were just like, I really wish you would just find a hobby outside of this place and go somewhere, because they will literally sit there all damn day. But this guy, man, the funniest part was he got like, there was another older guy that worked for us at the time, and then there was another guy that was just a regular, and he got them hooked onto the conspiracy stuff. And so they'd all like start hanging out together on the same days at the shop and watching Project Blue Book. And then I'd come in and they'd be like trying to sell me on this conspiracy thing. And I'm like, y'all are out of your mind, like UFOs and like all that. It was hilarious. We're talking about dudes that are like in their 70s and just like really sold on it. It was a sight.
That's crazy. I had a guy, I hear a bunch of weird stuff in my shop, and I got a lot of tinfoil hat wearing people that come into my shop, but I heard the best one ever like 2 days ago.
I think I actually called him the Tinfoil Hat Club at one
point. Yeah, for sure. So this guy comes in, right? And he looks just like a normal blue collar guy, nothing crazy. He's got shorts and a t-shirt on, just normal looking dude, but he's got a shirt rolled up in his arms, and for those, he's like holding it almost as if it's like a baby, and he's scratching his arm like this, and he never stops. The same exact spot the entire time he's in the store. He just keeps on scratching.
Hell no.
And he comes over. He's like, "Hey, do you know how much this is?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's such and such." He goes, "Oh, okay, cool." And then, "Do you guys have any of these?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah. Oh, they're $100 with her." "Oh, okay, cool." "You know what's crazy, man?" I was like, "Oh God, here we go." He's like, "You know what's crazy? I was thinking, man. Do you remember that movie Face Off?" And I kind of looked at my coworker and I was like, "Yeah."
There's no telling what's coming out of his mouth
He's
next,
like, "Dude, do you remember like Travolta and Cage and like the switching of the faces? What if?" All right, here we go, children. All right, bear with me. He says, "What if Obama was Osama? And we'll never know, man. We'll never know. They threw his ass out of a helicopter. We'll never know, man. There's no body. What if they switched, man? What if the faces were switched like the movie?" And then he just walked out.
That was it.
That was it.
He just dropped that nugget of wisdom and left.
Yes. My coworker was like, "Shit, man." He's like, "I should have gaslighted him. I should have been like, you think
I
that
thought
too?"
the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was probably the most bizarre tinfoil hat. Just because it was so obscure, like, and I wasn't expecting it. You see the guys that coming off the street sometimes, and they're looking a little, looking a little crazy. But no, like this guy just looked like a normal dude, but he was out there.
Shapeshifters, changelings.
Oh, by the way, Trippy, I knew you were too cool, and then you had to be a Rangers fan. Explains it.
What was that James Bond movie where they had sort of the same thing happen, where like the British guy, they had like the North Korean dude that got his face changed over and he
Tomorrow
turned
Never
into
Died.
like,
No,
yeah,
not tomorrow. No, The World Is Not Enough.
that one was ridiculous.
The World Is Not Enough. Yeah, that's when they busted out that green Jaguar and everyone was like, "Boo!"
Yeah, that was the giant laser in the ice hotel, which was
yes.
the most
Melting.
non-practical thing of all time. An ice hotel. Who
It's
the
just-
fuck wants to stay in that?
And look, Pierce Brosnan is my Bond. Like Pierce Brosnan is my Bond. He's your Bond. He's our generation's James Bond. But that movie was just grasping at straws, man.
It was.
It really was.
I mean, if you think about them, they all are. Like it's all kind of
you expect a Bond movie to be a certain way, right? But that one
over
was
the
just,
top. They're all over the top.
Yeah, Halle Berry and no.
He's an ornithologist in Cuba, staring at the water with binoculars.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no birds over there.
Yeah. Well put.
I am convinced that everyone thinks their generation's Bond was the best Bond.
Well, see, that's not true. Because as much as I
think
love,
it is.
Hold on. So my all-time favorite Bond movie is GoldenEye. That's the one I grew up with as a kid. I played the Nintendo 64 game religiously. Like Pierce Brosnan, GoldenEye.
Is that with the lady who like broke people in half with her legs?
Yeah. What was it? Femke Jensen?
Femke Jensen.
Yeah. Xenia Zargevna on a top. Yes. Love that movie. Also, full-fledged for all the gamers out there, that's where you fall in love with the AKS-74U. Fell in love with it. And yes, kids, I do own a real Klob. Side note, gaming out. Yes, I have a real Klob. So side note, I think that Roger Moore was the best Bond because I loved how funny he was. I mean, Roger Moore had the best one-liners. He was more of a womanizer than any other Bond.
Val Kilmer is my Batman, Jenkins. I loved those horrible Batman movies as a kid. Like,
yeah, they were pretty awesome.
When Kilmer was Batman and Clooney was Batman.
All right, everybody, freeze.
I loved those movies. Uma Thurman was like my first serious crush, man. And then
I didn't care for Pfeiffer as Catwoman until I became an adult, and I was like, oh God, she's just a filthy crumb. God bless her.
A filthy crumb.
Yeah. Pfeiffer as Catwoman, just as a kid, I was like, she's on drugs. I don't like her. And then as an adult, I'm like, oh yeah, this is bad.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know, man. I loved those 90s like weird over the top Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face, like
Yeah, I forgot about that. Oh my god.
Jim Carrey was the Riddler.
And yes, Lisa, Roger Moore did have the best villains. I mean, he had Odd Job and Jaw, multiple movies with Jaws. I mean, Pussy Galore. Like, come on. Or no, was Pussy Galore? No, I think that was Sean Connery. I can't remember.
Yeah, that I don't know.
Anyway. And Moonraker, Man with the Golden Gun. Oh, Roger Moore was the shit, man. And anyone who hasn't seen the movie Wild Geese with Richard Burns and Hardy Kruger and Roger Moore, you need to watch it. Roger Moore plays a ex-British Special Forces mercenary in pseudo-Rhodesian Africa. It's amazing. Fantastic movie.
Did you see the new Batman?
Like I did not.
One with
Affleck?
Pattinson?
Oh no, I heard the Pattinson one was awesome because
dude, it was so good.
I've never seen the Twilight movie, but Pattinson is the fucking man. Did you see the movie?
Turned it around because
sure,
there's been a couple other movies that I was like, where was this when you started, dude? Like, damn.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Did you see? I think it's still on Netflix. It's called The King, and it's Timothy Chalamet plays like Henry III or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Pattinson plays the Emperor of France, and he's a lunatic, and it is fantastic.
He was in this Tom Holland movie called The Devil All the Time, and he was fantastic in that too.
Really?
Definitely need to watch that.
Now I can't remember the name of the woman, but it was Hemingway's love interest. I can't remember her name.
Sigourney Weaver.
No, she was a famous writer or journalist. Yeah, she was a famous journalist. Anyway, Nicole Kidman plays her in a movie, and Pattinson plays T.E. Lawrence. And he's like super flamboyant, but also extremely obscure because he's been in fucking desert combat for years and he's all twisted. Awesome. Dude, Pattinson's the man.
Yeah, no, he was really good in this Batman movie. Like Paul Dano was Riddler.
Oh, nice.
And it was just such a the Christian Bale movies were definitely on the darker side. Maybe not the later ones, but
yeah,
this one was like on another. Like it almost had like Seven vibes.
Really?
Kind of, not as dark, but it was good. I really enjoyed it. So I hope they do more.
Yeah.
Snakes are pretty cool.
Yeah, back to snakes. So you went herping.
I did.
Give us a rundown of how it transpired.
I won't go into too much detail because I think that's what me and Jake will end up talking about on Thursday.
Oh, come on.
I don't want to just repeat and have the same show, but
okay, all right.
Basically, the synopsis
he was there, so I get it.
He was. Chaz at More Than Morelia put on this like Earth Day herping trip up in Athens, outside of Athens. It was Oconee National Forest that we went to. It ended up being, I think, 7 of us total, maybe 9. So it was me, Chaz, Preston Converse from Smoky Mountain Feeders, Brent from Blue Ridge Reptiles, Skylar ended up from Hail the Scales, ended up driving up Saturday. Jake ended up driving up Saturday. And then Preston's sort of stepson, more or less, his name is Che. He was with us. And then we had another guy with us who kind of was like a last minute sort of addition. He's here from the UK. He was supposed to be going somewhere else that particular weekend, but something fell through. So he ended up kicking it with us. His name is Aiden Beaverton.
Very cool.
So he's been herping all over the world, and he just happened to be in our neck of the woods, I think, that particular weekend. So he camped out with us and stuff. And I drove up there Friday morning. It's only like a 4-hour drive or so for me, so it wasn't horrible. Got up early Friday, got up there before noon, went straight to Chaz's place where we all met, and then we all convoyed to the spot and camped out and did some herping before we really got to the campsite and set up. And man, we did phenomenal. Like, we found a lot of stuff. I think we found total of like 28 snakes.
Wow.
Across, I think we tallied like 9 species.
Hell yeah.
And then we saw a handful of lizards, handful of amphibians. And it was awesome. Like, they did a lot of controlled burns, I think, about 3 weeks prior in some of the areas we were at. So that kind of got things moving a little bit. And
it's great.
It was freaking gorgeous up there, man. Like, it was really nice. The weather was perfect. It rained some Saturday morning, but then it cleared up in no time. Awesome. Still like cooler. Like, it wasn't hot. It was still, I think it was like mid 70s Saturday. So it was cool enough to where, things weren't going to be moving a lot, but if stuff was sunning, it would definitely be out. So it was like kind of perfect for finding stuff that was basking. Found some black rats. They found some Nerodia. I got my scorpions.
Hell yeah.
Which was super exciting. Found some ringnecks, some decays. Found a really nice canebrake / timber, which is interesting. I'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
What else? Eastern King, racers, and rough greens.
It's a hell of a list, man.
I think they found some box turtles.
Nice.
Gray tree frogs. I think there were some bullfrogs. Broadhead skinks, 5-line skinks, a couple of knolls, ground skinks. Which that was funny too, because like I remember walking around the woods and like being like, man, that's weird that I'm not hearing cincella, which are those ground skinks. Normally when you're walking, you can hear them like take off.
Yeah.
And it's only for like a few seconds, and then they kind of disappear into the brush or under the leaf litter and stuff. It was like as soon as I had that thought, all of a sudden I hear them and I see them, and they're like, I go down this little ravine into this giant ditch in the middle of this forested area, and like there's ground skinks all of a sudden everywhere. Tons of armadillo burrows too, which I thought was interesting. Like the armadillos cool. Definitely everywhere out there. And yeah, and then I'm sure I'm missing some stuff, but we Aiden, the guy from the UK, like he one of his lifers was a rough green, and so we found that rough green. He got some really good pictures of it. Awesome. He brought his camera, and he had like full setup with the camera and everything. He's on Instagram. I'll have to show everybody.
Yeah, man, share the goods
stuff. But yeah, scorpions. That was exciting as hell.
So did you find them at night, or did you find them during the day?
So the first handful that I found was actually during the day, and it was like me and Chaz had sort of gone back to the cars while everyone else was still scattered out, sort of looking around. So we were just kind of hanging out, killing some time. And it was in an area where there was a controlled burn recently, so everything was charred and stuff, and there was down pines. And so I started peeling bark kind of on some of the smaller logs, and I just happened to look down while I was talking to Chaz, and one of those scorpions was chilling like right there.
This is the Hensey?
No, these are the Vehovis.
Oh, okay, cool.
Carolinianus.
Carolinianus.
Southern devil scorpions, or I think unstriped scorpions is what they're called. I don't know why they call them that, but
yeah.
Either way, I looked down, I got super excited, and I saw it, and so I brought some little deli cups with me because I was like, I'm taking some, like I've wanted some of these forever. I'm taking some home
for sure.
And got one, and then we peeled back the bark some more, and there was another one. Peel back the bark some more. There's another one.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, because they're communal. So like usually if you see one in a log, there's almost always going to be more.
Yeah.
And so I just kept going down this log, man. I ended up going home with 7 of them.
Wow.
But so I found that first handful. And then I did bring my black light to go looking around. And so Friday night, when it started to go dark, I had eyeballed some pine logs and stuff near our campsite where we were, there's a little sort of equestrian trail that started at our campsite and kind of went out. So when we were walking down that, kind of looking around, I spotted a few logs that I went back to and checked out, and spotted a few. There was like 2 of them that I didn't catch because I wasn't fast enough. They disappeared in the leaf litter, and then even with the black light, they just kind of disappeared. No idea where they went. But then another like spot near the campsite with a bunch of down logs and stuff, and I blacklit it a little bit over there and found a couple. And then the next day, somehow Skylar had come across one, and he had it in a bottle for me. So
nice.
Final tally was 7 of them, and actually I have some like tiny baby mealworms because these things are small. Like an adult could fit on my thumbnail fairly easily.
Really?
Yeah, they're little.
That's crazy.
And so I had tiny baby mealworms, and so I started chucking a few in there, and I checked on them, I think, last night, and one of them was like going to town on it.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
So I'm super excited about those. They're so cool. It's so strange that they're even in Vehovis because you look at their build, and it is nothing like dune scorpions or any of that stuff out west.
Right.
If anything, I think they look more like Babicurus or just some of the more boothed, stockier stuff. Like they don't have the same. I don't know, the whole Vehovis thing. I'm so confused about. I need to find like a phylogenetic tree or something because it doesn't add up. It's almost like they were like, they're not Centroides. What's the next best thing we got? And someone was like, Vehovis, and they're like, okay, that's what they're gonna be. So
yeah,
I'm pretty stoked, man.
It's awesome. How are you gonna set them up?
I have them set up in one of the little Systema boxes that's like maybe a liter size box.
All right.
With a couple pieces of cork bark, and I had a couple dead pothos leaves from the rhino rat cage that I put in there, and some sort of pine bark that I had them in the deli cup with, just on some topsoil, and I'm keeping that pretty humid, pretty moist, because that doesn't seem like a species that would take well to drying out a lot. I mean, you consider like when you're peeling bark on these down pine trees, like it's always
100% humidity.
Humid. It's always wet, So we'll see. I mean, I think with the numbers I have, I'm almost guaranteed to at least have a pair in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So, but they're super cool. I mean, they're so small and they're communal, which I think is cool as hell. I love communal scorpions. I think those are some of the most fun.
You should get some isopods and put them in there, because the bigger ones they're not going to mess with, and then they'll probably eat the offspring. So that could be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case the mealworms don't pan out exactly how you want.
Those are freaking. I'll never run out of those things.
Oh, nice.
Crazy. Yeah.
Good.
But dude, I was so excited when I saw that first one. I just looked down and there it was. And I was like, oh my God, they're real.
That's awesome.
So that was the sort of the target species for me. More than happy to have got some and been able to bring them back. I don't know what it is. Like maybe it's just because they're not a big species, or they've never struck me as something that was ever really popular in the invert hobby. Yeah. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because they're like a native species and that they're kind of just small brown scorpions or what, but
I think that's it. I think you hit it on the head. I think they're not a large species, it's difficult to have a pet that's not of a particular size, or won't grow, won't grow to be a size that most people have in their mind. And it is North American. It is in people's backyards. It's oftentimes regarded as a pet, or not a pet, a pest, excuse me. So it's not as flashy as something exotic,
I don't see, to me, they're not any bigger than any like Stigmurus.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like they're just as communal. They're not nearly as toxic.
Yeah.
I think. So here's what's interesting about that too. A lot of other Vehovis, at least that I've seen, I need to do more research. Like the tails on these things are fairly thick. Like, in my opinion, they're bordering like androgynous proportion in terms of size and thickness
Okay.
to body.
Right.
And then they don't have like really heavy duty chelicerae like you see with those species that are less toxic but that more powerful. So that makes me really wonder if it's almost like a squam kind of thing where it's like the only
Yeah.
saving grace from them not dropping more people is because they're small and their
Yeah.
yield is lower.
Sure.
I mean, so like it makes me wonder. It's the same with pygmy rattlers. You know, it's like if they were 3 times or twice that size, you know, how much more serious would they be? And
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting that we talk about different species within the same genus having bigger or more clinical effects toxicity wise, right? And then you look at Gracilis, and you have Gracilis in Georgia and Florida, and it's like, ow, it hurts, that sucks. And then you have Gracilis in the Keys, and you're like, wow, that really sucks.
Yeah, the Central American stuff.
And then you have the Central American stuff. It's like, okay, that guy died.
Yeah.
And I feel like I know the Vahovas in out west are way more toxic than yours, but again, I wonder if like it's what you said, where just because of the size, it's not the clinical effect is just not there. But at the same time, people have died from 3rd and 4th instar androgynous. So
yeah,
that really shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Play a
And
factor.
it's one of those things where it's like they're so damn small. How can somebody? It's not like I could go to Nathaniel at MTalks and be like, "Hey, man, you should look into these," because it's like they're so damn small.
Yeah.
It's like the yield is almost non-existent. It's like there's so much effort would have to go into that. So it's one of those things where it's like it's just never gonna happen. I don't see one of these being able to do any serious damage just given their size. Like they're so small. But I don't know. It just made me wonder because like looking at their body shape and stuff, like I said, they look like they're very much more reminiscent of like some of the African, like North African species than they are anything out west. Because I've had dune scorpions before, and the configuration and overall behavior and shape of dune scorpions is way different from these things. Like very different.
Yeah.
So that's what the whole fact that they're even in that genus to me just doesn't add up. But I also have that's the other frustrating part. There's not a ton of information out there about them. Like it's been one of those things where people are like, yeah, they exist, and that's kind of the extent of it. You see most of the information you see on them is from like exterminator websites in upstate South Carolina and Georgia.
Really?
Like there's really not a ton of stuff out there on them.
Wow.
So I don't know. I'm really anxious to dive deeper and see what else I can dig up on.
Have you found the actual describing paper?
I haven't really looked at either, though.
I was going to say I would try and go onto one of the scorpion forums or one of the scorpion or like arthropod pages and find out the taxonomic history and see if it was always in Vahovas and the description was from 1890 and they just never followed through with it because nobody cared.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I am kind of surprised that nobody got stung by one, given how much Jack Oliver was there with us. I got to mention Jack. He was flipping logs and rocks with his hands, and I was just like, hey, that's just bad. But I was like, I was kind of as many scorpions as I found under rocks and logs and stuff. I was like, surely like they're nervous too. Like when you touch them, they take off. Like they're fast, little twitchy scorpions. It's one of those ones where it's like you wouldn't have to do much to get one to nail you.
Sure.
Maybe I'll have to be like our boy Coyote Peterson and get stung by one just to be able to document what happens. And then I'll be like a boom slang situation where I'll bleed out of every pore in my body and basically write, "It was fun, y'all. Thanks. Don't touch these things." And those will be my dying words.
Yeah, but don't do that because then I have to write a paper with all that information in it. And then we have to rename it Smith Eye.
Would that be so bad?
Yeah, I lose a friend and I got to write that horrible paper? No.
Fair enough. Overall, the trip was awesome. I ended up leaving Saturday around 1, just so I got back at a decent time. I wanted to stay another night, but with the rats and stuff, I didn't want to have to do those basically today after work and then come home and be exhausted and stuff for this. So, yeah, I ended up coming back Saturday and it was good. It was like a little quick 24-hour trip, and we freaking killed it, man.
Nice.
And it made me very tempted to get some black rats because we found some black rats that were just super chill, like no attempt to bite or nothing. They were just kind of hanging out. Same with the Eastern King. They found the Eastern King, and that thing didn't even. I don't even think it musked them.
Really?
Yeah, it was
That's
wild.
awesome.
And then that canebrake.
The canebrake.
Timber. So here's where the confusion lies for me, because we've talked about this before.
Atrocadellus for life.
The old canebrake versus timber thing. So this is technically North Georgia, which
should be canebrake.
Should it?
Yeah.
Because I always considered canebrakes to be more of like a coastal thing.
Well, I always was told if it's over like 2,000 feet of elevation, it's a timber.
I don't know how high up we were.
I mean, that's
because I don't know. I was
totally
like,
anecdotal.
It looked like a canebrake. It had the stripe. It
yeah.
did not look like a timber that you see. And of course, I guess when I think of timber, I think of like the North Georgia ones that are like pitch black, like completely.
I was going to say
out.
Pennsylvania,
and then the Pennsylvania yellows and things like that.
Yeah.
So it made me wonder: Are we wrong?
But who's wrong? We're not wrong. No.
You don't know. Let me look it up.
Just FYI, I checked the radar and this storm is right on my ass. So I may have to slam the laptop shut and run inside. Just forewarning.
Don't do it.
Just forewarning.
Oh, so like, yeah, there was this ghost town it's called Skull Shoals.
Ooh.
And it was like a historic area, and that's where we were looking around. That's where we happened to find the Eastern King and like the ruins of like.
Really?
I don't know what it used to be. It was literally just a pile of old bricks and stuff where a building used to stand. But all the grass and flowers and stuff had like taken it over. So it was just kind of this giant mound. And dude, there was all kinds of stuff living in there, like fence lizards and all kinds of stuff. It was really cool. Let me see if this tells me how high above.
Yeah, I love abandoned structures for herping, but I also hate it because I'm a big wuss and I'm afraid that some ghost is going to eat me or some homeless guy is going to try and stab me with a bottle.
Yeah, well, like none of them were like standing structures really. Like if there was, it was basically the outer walls of a building or like a chimney or something. It wasn't anything serious.
Now, what is cool is, did you get an idea of how old it was? I mean, was this like 50 years old, 100 years old, 200 years old?
Super old. Let me see if it tells me anything about it.
And look, I expected Patrick to disagree with the canebrakes, but I did not expect that from you, Kasicki. I thought you were Team Atrocadellus. Atrocadellus, excuse me. Can't even say the name right tonight.
Let me see if it gives me a. It was founded in 1782.
That structure?
That little ghost town, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. That's awesome.
Declined from 1887 and abandoned from the 1920s.
No shit.
So, I mean, that explains why it felt like it was haunted the entire time. So, dude, there was this weird like pond, and it had these. I wonder if someone took a picture of it. But like, almost like these pillars that used to be holding something up in the middle of it. So it was almost like if you wanted to get to the other side, you had to jump across onto these pillars. It was like Tomb Raider or something.
Really?
And if you fell in, it was like this gross cesspool of water that you were bound to get some sort of disease from.
Amoebic dysentery. Or snapping turtle to the buttocks.
If I were a snapping turtle, I'd be hanging out in there.
I bet you would.
Yeah, I don't see an elevation thing, but
regardless. It was a cane break. It was in Georgia.
It was a cane break. So, and it had like an abscess or something. So like it had a messed up lower left, like our left lower mandible. It had some sort of injury or something because it was like its lip was sort of like sticking out and hanging out.
Interesting.
It had like 15 rattles on it though.
That's good.
Didn't rattle once.
Really?
So like what happened is they had found it. They were trying to find this plain belly water snake that we saw the day prior, and they were trying to go back and get it. And then I was like a half a mile back in the woods somewhere else looking around in an area that I was sure I would find, a horridus or something. Because I was like, this place is too perfect. No one's back here messing around with anything. Surely there's one back here. And I didn't find anything. And so I finally came back out to where they were. And Chaz was like, oh, I've been looking for you. We found a cane break. And so I was like, oh. And so we went back over there, and it's still been chilling in the spot where they had left it after they got their pictures and stuff. And so he showed it to me, and I, hooked it and moved it out so I could get a better look at it and stuff. And it didn't rattle a single once.
Wow.
Definitely knew I was there. Like it was clearly like ready to go, but never rattled. And he said even when they pulled it out, he said it rattled a little bit, but barely. So
that's awesome. It's very cool. I've never found one. It's on my list.
Yeah, and there was 2 guys that were metal detecting and stuff around there, and they had a little kid with them that probably had to be like maybe 3, and they were kind of just letting that kid run around, sort of do its thing. And so I saw Chaz, I was like, we should tell them that thing's over there in case they go over there and that kid's not being watched.
Yeah.
And so we went and told them, we're like, hey, we're here, we're looking for snakes. We're just letting you know if you go over in that area, like there is a cane break. We noticed that, he was just kind of running around doing his thing. We know how little kids are because we both have children. So we're just giving you a heads up, stay over there. Of course, the guy was like, oh, do you think it'll attack us? And we're like, no, we're just like, just pay attention to what you're doing. Like the grass was all like at least calf high in a lot of areas, practically like waist high on this kid. And they got him just kind of running around and stuff. And I'm like, y'all are just asking to have this kid get bit by something. So
tick magnet. Ugh.
I really didn't have any on me. I found one tiny one. That was it.
That's good.
I thought that was interesting. No Lyme disease for Smitty.
Good.
But it was a great trip. I think we're going to try and make it more of an annual thing. I don't know if we're planning to go to like the same place or if we're going to try and like sort of bounce around the southeast and change it up. I'm glad Jake got up there. He got to see a black rat after I left. They found another one, so he was super stoked on that.
Awesome.
They found some Nerodia too, which he was super excited about. And it just, man, it really sort of reignited the wanting to get out there and hurt more and stuff. And
hell yeah.
Like I told Chaz while we were out there, I was like, dude, I go out here in Beaufort sometimes, but it's like I don't really do it as much anymore because I never find anything. Yeah. So I was like, it's nice to come on a trip somewhere and actually find stuff and actually be like multiple things at that, not just the same thing. I'm not just seeing nothing but racers. I'm not just seeing nothing but broadheads. Like I'm, seeing all kinds of stuff, and it's got me really anxious to get out there more now. And like that stuff is just super important. It was nice. Like there's no phone service up there really. It was very spotty, which was nice. Hanging out with people that like I've been following on Instagram and have talked to off and on a good bit, and then to finally meet them and hang out with them and stuff, and just get out and
Get out.
You hang out with the boys and
Yeah.
get off the phone and just enjoy it. Like that stuff's important, man. And I remember like it was the same way in Texas, but I really, even if it was just a 24-hour trip, like I had, it was really good, and I need to do more of that. I think everyone should.
Agree. Absolutely. Well said. Well said.
But what is your herping
Oh, yes. So,
news?
so I have this one paved road that goes through cane fields, and it's all private property, but the road is a county road. So we can road cruise it, we can hike it, we can collect on it. And I've actually got the two of the three pygmies I have now, I got from this one road. I just love the phenotype. It's super dark black with like that slate gray purple borders and real rusty saddles. So it's a good looking area. And I've found a lot of cool stuff there. It's a great road, but every time Anna Marie and I go out to this one road, we see mammals, and we'll see a lot of barn owls. We will see a lot of shorebirds, depending on if we get there during daylight. Do the sandpipers, pink spoonbills, so much cool wildlife, not just the herps. But we always see cool mammals, and we see raccoons, we see possums. One time we've seen a mom and two cubs, bobcat, which was super cool. And then one time we saw a straggly black bear, which I think I've mentioned on this podcast before. We thought it was just a really disheveled, obese raccoon, and then it stood up on two legs and was like, "Oh shit, that's a bear! Look at that!" And it was a straggly looking bear, but a bear in the cane fields—that's crazy. You just unheard of. So, through my years of herping South Florida, I've seen a lot of animals. And I've seen a handful of bear, I've seen bobcats, I've seen otters and turkeys and deer and pigs and bears, oh my, right? And I have seen Florida panthers not in the preserve, because there is a preserve that you can go and you can get lucky, and there's like some boardwalks in there that people always see panthers, but it is very, very hard to see a Florida panther, especially with the amount of them that are left. I think on average it's between 40 and 50 get killed every year because of road getting hit by cars on the road. And they have an idea what the population is, but it's very, very slim. So over the past, I'll say 20 years or so, I can claim to have seen 9 sightings of a panther. Now, I don't usually tell this to people because a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's bullshit. You're full of crap." Well, 3 or maybe 4 of those times, it was clear as day it was a panther. But they call them the ghosts of the Everglades because they just disappear. You see the silhouette of this cat, and you do 2 things: you look for spots, and you look for the tail, because it's too far away. They're never within 100 yards ever. So they're never within a football field's distance, but you look for the tail. You make sure it has that long curved, big cat tail, and it doesn't have a little stub tail like a bobcat. And you make sure that if it has the right size on it, there's no spots, because if it's 40, 50 pounds and it has spots, it's probably a giant bobcat.
Yeah.
So I'd say, what's that?
Bobcats are cool.
Bobcats are super cool.
We have them here. I've never seen one though.
Oh, really? I love bobcats.
Yeah.
They're awesome. Terrifying up close, but still cool.
So I want one.
2 or 3 times I've seen a panther, and it's always with friends, because you got to have witnesses, right?
Right.
And they're like, "Dude, that was a panther. That was a panther. Oh my god, oh my god!" And like, it's literally, you're driving down the road 100 yards in front of the road, you see the cat come out, you see the silhouette, and you're like, skid on the brakes, and then before you can blink, or like by the time your hand hits your pocket to pull your phone out, it's vanished, gone. And that's usually the case. In fact, I could say with confidence that 2 or 3 sightings of panthers that I have may have even been the same cat, because we're in the same wildlife management area on the same road at the same time of day. And I know that this is a place where Fish and Wildlife has released panthers that they, captured for scientific purposes and relocated to kind of diversify genetics and stuff. But I've never been really close to one in captivity. It's always that 80 yards, 100 yards away until Friday night. And we're driving down this road. It was 10:32 at night. It was 71 degrees Fahrenheit. There wasn't a single living creature on that road. Anna Maria had actually dozed off, and I see this funky looking thing walking down the side of the shoulder of the road. And
parallel, like walking with the
road?
Walking
with the road in the same direction as me.
Like
but
it was hitchhiking.
Like it was hitchhiking. And then I realized it's not one, it's 2. And I was like, babe. And I'm hitting her to wake her up because I thought it was a mama bobcat and a cub. And as we got closer, they got bigger. And then I got within maybe 2 cars lengths, maybe a car length and a half.
Wow.
And it was 2 panthers, juveniles, no spots, but still small.
Mm-hmm.
And they stopped. They stared at us, kind of like hunched down a little bit, like a house cat kind of hunches down, and then stood up real tall and then just walked off into the bushes. Didn't run, didn't spook, didn't scare. Saw the eye shine at one point because they turned, but I've never been that close. And I was like, babe, just two panthers. And she's like, yeah, it's awesome. I was like, I don't think you
understand.
I was in shock and awe. And it was in the cane fields. Like, what are the odds? They had to have been, moving through or something. I don't think it was a mother and cub. I think it was
like cub mates or something.
I think it was cub mates that maybe one got more food than the other, because they weren't big cat size. They were maybe 40 pounds, maybe ish.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe 50 pounds on the larger
size
one.
Of Archie.
Yeah, exactly. And you could see the ears were rounded. There was no spots. The face was rounded, and there was the long tail, but they didn't have it stretched out like a tiger or like a lion. It was very close, tight to the body.
Yeah, it kind of hangs
more. And then after you see that, and I'm enamored. I'm like, what just happened? I can't believe this. I'm kind of like, I'm idling the car because I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm like Ricky Bobby. I don't know what to do with my hands. And she's like, I don't know. Were those panthers? I was like, those were panthers. We saw 2. We saw 2 fucking panthers. 2 of them. And we Googled it. And she's like, yeah, that's exactly what we saw. Exactly it. And what's crazy is I know in my soul that may never happen ever again in the rest of my life. And I was telling her that. And I was like, this is a once in a lifetime experience. And I scrambled to get my phone, but I didn't want to look down.
Yeah.
Because I knew if I looked down, gone.
It's one of those things, man, where you have to like there's some things like that where it's like, if I don't get this, a photo or a video, like I'd kind of, if I don't have time, I'd rather just see it and not have it documented,
Yeah. I think if I was by myself, I probably would have tried to get the phone just for evidence so that people believe me. But I mean, I had her in the car, so I witnessed it happened.
I mean, when you see those, does like Fish and Wildlife want you to like let them know?
I imagine they do, but I don't think this is a regular occurrence. I also
imagine that they have a pretty good idea of where they are and where they aren't.
Yeah, and at the same time, I know a lot of people that own private land. They don't tell Fish and Wildlife they have cats on the property because the state has been known to seize property. So, like, I have a customer who owns like 56,000 acres that butts up to Everglades National Forest.
So and seems right up to par with given recent events.
Yeah. And and it's not even Florida. It's usually U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Yeah, because it's endangered species and they want the federal and all that. So anyway, he has trail cams all over his property, and he showed me videos. He brought his laptop in. He showed me trail cam videos in full color HD of like 4 panthers and like 2 or 3 cubs walking past his cameras all as a group, as like a little pride.
Yeah.
And then he has other videos of 2 or 3 full grown, 100-pound, whatever they are, adults taking down feral pigs.
Wow.
Crazy. And I guess he had told somebody who then ratted him out, and he kept getting knocks on the door from Fish and Wildlife. Hey, we want to find those cats. We want to put collars on them. He's like, no. He says they're at peace. They're on my land.
They're
No one's
doing their thing.
no one hunts my land but me. You know what I mean? It's a natural area.
You want to check on them? Come ask me for my trail cam footage.
He's like, I will give you all the trail cam footage you want. You can do whatever you want with it. He's like, I'll even let you put your trail cams out there. You want to put your own government little trail cam out there? Knock yourself out, but nobody comes on my land. Like, that's it. So, and more power to it, man.
It's one of those things here where you have to wonder. It's like if they go in and say they did find them and trank them and collar them and whatever they do, it's like
you just messed it up.
Does that now mess it up to where those animals now relocate because it's now no longer deemed a safe area for them, where they're like, we got to go because like we're here, like they know we're here, we got to go, kind of thing. So props to him for that.
Yeah,
we just had a big air show here over the weekend, speaking of bald eagles, and apparently when the Blue Angels just started taking off, like a bald eagle came out of nowhere, completely unintentional. It was like one of the biggest
awesome.
like, fuck yeah America moments, because it's on the air station. Like, we have the air base here, so there's like always jets and stuff flying. And my boss was there over the weekend. He's like, dude, this bald eagle just came out of nowhere, like when these jets took off, and it was just like the coolest thing.
Yeah.
America, fuck yeah.
That's awesome. So I had a good night of herping. Didn't see any snakes. So,
but speaking of pygmies, it's we talked about sort of the Athens Augusta reds.
Yeah,
seeing all the red dirt and like red clay and stuff up there, it now makes complete sense why there are red pigs up there.
Yep, 1000%. Match that with the leaf litter, all those oak leaves and sycamore, and yeah, dude.
I walked up on a pair of racers breeding.
That's cool.
I thought
like
was
actually
funny.
breeding or males combating?
No, like male was like locked.
Nice, good for him.
Like I was walking and I was back sort of in the area where when we first got to the park, we parked and started walking this area, waiting for Jack Oliver to get there. And I was kind of back where we started, like where we first walked in. I kept hearing this noise, and I was like, that sounds like a snake moving. Because it was like, oddly enough, there wasn't that many squirrels up there, which was interesting. Because there's squirrels everywhere here. Like, you're walking in the woods, squirrels are constantly making noise, and you know what that sounds like. But I kept hearing this. I'm like, that's not a squirrel. It's not a bird. And so I heard a snake, and so I stop and I look, and I don't see anything. And so I take a couple more steps, and I hear it again. And I just happen to look over, and like where this sort of ditch starts to slope down and go, it was really deep. Like that thing probably had to be like 15 feet deep.
Wow.
At its deepest. I look over, and there's probably the biggest black racer I've ever seen was a female.
Nice.
With a male right there on top of her. And I stood there for probably a good 10 minutes and just watched them do their thing. And, as weird as that sounds. And then Jack showed up, and Jack was walking in. I was like, oh, come here. I was like, dude, check it out. I got, there's 2 black racers over here copulating. And, he sat there and watched for a few minutes. And then the female finally, I guess, was over it and took off like full bore, full speed.
Wow.
And the craziest thing was that male did not miss a beat and was still halfway up her back.
Really?
Full speed chasing her. I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, like, I know those things move, but that female just like a shot, just gone. And that male was right there on top of her like the entire way. And then she finally, I guess, took off and got away from him. And then we watched him for a few more minutes scan around, trying to figure out where she went. Like, he went to this log that she went under or went past, I think. I don't know where she went after that, but you saw him go to that. And then he kind of scanned around that a little bit. And then he'd stop and periscope. And then he went back to searching around. And then finally, I guess he went in that log where I'm assuming she went. But just watching him like frantically start looking and trying to figure out, like, get a trail or something to figure out where she went. Like, it was really cool to see that
That's
in
so
the
cool.
wild and just walk up on it. It's just like the panther thing. It's like,
Yeah.
you think had you stopped for 45 seconds somewhere else down the road,
Yeah,
you never would have seen that.
never would have seen it.
Same with like the cane break and stuff. It's like, had the guys not been looking around in that one particular area, and there was like 5 of them there looking around, and no one saw this cane break just curled up in the sun, just chilling right there. It wasn't until Brent looked down and noticed it a couple feet from him. But you have like 5 sets of eyes scanning the same area,
and not just 5 sets of eyes, 5 sets of eyes trained to look for that stuff, right? Who are intentionally seeking it out, and they still pseudo missed it. Crazy. Absolutely awesome.
Dude, the whole time I was there and we were out in the woods running around, like, I was fully convinced that at any given time we were within like 20 feet of a horridus.
Oh, sure.
Somewhere.
For sure.
Like, the habitat was just too perfect. And even like black rats and the rough greens and stuff. It was like, I feel like there's one somewhere right by us. We just don't know it. So
yeah,
it just, and Chaz said, he's like, this is my spot for black rats. And he didn't lie. I think we found a total of 3.
Nice.
One of them was a younger one that Jack was peeling some bark off a down pine, and he found a young black. And then he found the first one, which was the same day earlier that day. And it was just kind of sitting on the ground on its way to like a tree. And actually, I have pictures of that one. Let me pull it up. I have pictures of sort of where we were at, like the landscape and stuff too. See if I can do this without the internet having an aneurysm.
I hear the rain coming. It's pouring, but it's not coming at me just yet. I may dip out of here in a minute.
Load. Damn it. Why is it always raining down there, man?
I mean, it
together.
Happens. Yeah. It is a swamp. After all the flooding we had, it's going to be even worse.
Yeah, how's that been?
Well, I mean, let's be real. I never experienced flooding. Most people, I'll say a solid 80% of South Florida did not experience the really bad flooding.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone felt it because all the traffic was rerouted. There was no gas anywhere. The port was all locked down. The airport was all on lockdown. So, like, dude, the lines for gas were incredible. You know, I got gas at like 1 a.m. just so that I wouldn't have to sit in line for 2 hours. It's wild. Look at that snake. Damn.
Dude, that little black rat was so mellow, man. Like, we had a moment.
Awesome.
We were just chilling. You like my Kinexis working group shirt there?
Hell yeah, dude.
And that's the cane.
Yeah, it is. Very nice.
Yeah, so this is like the area that we found like the black rats.
Dude, it's a legit garden, man, an oasis.
Yeah.
Look at that sky. Oh,
dude, it was
primo.
Perfect up there. And then there was like this creek that ran through sort of the whole thing. Picture doesn't want to load.
Yeah, I would say it's not quite loading.
Damn it.
That's a pyro. Whose pyro was that?
Oh my God. Facebook is the worst. Zuckerberg, get it together.
Man, look at that ecosystem. That's gorgeous.
I know. I'd love to show you more.
And dude, that would be a great backdrop for an enclosure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that would be a fantastic backdrop.
So like this is the area where like they were all sort of up further back, like behind me in this picture. I was like literally like a half a mile from them back in these woods here.
Nice.
And it just kept going because like this, you walk through a little like a lower swampy area, and then you went up this hill, and there's a chimney and like a couple of really old deep wells from that settlement. And
yeah,
I just kept going past that. Like, got to the point where the trail just wasn't even there anymore, and I just kept going.
That's awesome. Oh,
And
look at
that's
that.
same creek.
Look at that. Now, were you guys camping at a campsite or were you camping in there? Oh, incredible.
No, there was like a campsite area.
Okay. Look at that. Just fields of velvet. Oh. And everything is so lush green, man.
Yeah. So that's the river there where those creeks and stuff all kind of met.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is a path that followed that river. And this actually over on this towards this side is where that canebrake was, probably 30 yards to the left.
Nice.
It reminded me of like India in a way. Like you see like videos and pictures of like these pathways on India and where people get nailed by Russell's vipers and stuff. And
yeah, I mean, I could totally see a tiger just walking through the background.
But yeah, man, it was just freaking incredible. It was.
Yeah, you go back to that lush green one.
Which one? This one?
Nope. Yeah, that one right there, dude. That's a backdrop for an enclosure. Oh, that would be amazing for your black rat snake or a copperhead. Oh, awesome.
Here, I got another one of this. Sort of get you. I got a good in situ shot of that canebrake.
Nice.
As soon as this thing gets its life together.
Dude,
shout out to Michael Gillen. Yeah, he just got those pyros.
Oh, nice. Good for him. Congrats, Mike.
Yeah, so the canebrake's chilling right here.
Oh, really?
They found it sort of probably 2 yards down here out in a little sunny spot, just curled up. This was after like they had put it somewhere over here in this brush and I had pulled it out, like hooked it out a little bit, and it just moved right here and curled up and just did its thing. It was hanging out. But I mean, just the greenery and stuff, man. Like it really is no surprise as to why there was so much biodiversity and species and stuff that we found.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It was really cool to see like ringnecks and stuff too. That's a species I don't see a lot.
Dude, everyone poo-poos the fossorial stuff, but it's
dude,
awesome.
Those yellow bellies on those things, like you see those in person and it's like, okay, now you have a better appreciation for them after that. But
yeah,
this is sort of the long leaf type habitat we first stopped at. And then this was that pair of racers that I found on that sort of embankment.
Very cool.
I'm also slightly amazed no one got hit by poison oak or poison ivy too, because I can't identify that stuff, and I feel like we were walking through it the entire weekend. But it's awesome. I want to go back.
Very cool.
Oh, and I'll see. I gotta put a picture of the scorpions up there too. There's a project for you. I don't do the backgrounds thing, man. That's a Phil thing.
I love the backgrounds. Oh, I love it.
I don't know why they can't add these pictures that I send in real time. I have to exit out and open it back up.
Yeah, that is annoying. Look at them.
You see what I'm saying? That does not shape like Vehovis.
And you can't zoom in, right?
I can if I save it. So if I do that and then I open it, I can open that window and then I can zoom in all day long. Bum, 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 bum. Window. Okay, here we go.
Oh, dude, too cool. Too freaking cool.
But you see what I'm talking about with like the thickness?
Yeah. They're very centroides-ish. They are. They're very titious-ish as well.
Mm-hmm.
If that's even a word. Titious similar. But that color, gorgeous.
Yeah.
The yellow on the
I wanted
legs.
there may be, I think there's even one that looked like she might have been gravid in the group. This was like the initial, I think, 4 or 5 that I found.
And they're not dimorphic in the tail?
Not that I've noticed. There's a few maybe in like the chelicerae, and sort of overall stockiness that I think there's a couple that look like I would lean more towards them being male than female, just in terms of overall like girth.
Sure.
Let me see if I have. I don't think I took a picture of the setup.
And is that a piece of bark that you took from their tree?
Yeah, that's just a piece of pine bark.
Awesome. Yeah, man, the colors of those things in the sun, they're just screaming.
I wish finding snakes was as easy as finding those things, because like I feel like the black light is almost cheating.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they stick out so much. It's just goofy. Let me see. Is the other one showing up now?
Nope, I just see you.
No. Yeah, I mean, that's because I was in my stupid dark room. StreamYard can make this window sharing thing easier if they wanted to make some upgrades to their program.
If they wanted
Just
to.
saying.
Okay. Yeah, very centroides-ish.
Yeah.
I like those white joints at the legs.
Mm-hmm.
Those little white knees. That's kind of cool. And they have a very armored tail.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that Telson's real long, very footballish. That's what makes me kind of feel centroides as well.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. So let's bring up some other Vehovis for comparison.
Let's do it.
Hello, cat. Alicia.
Trippy said, "Big titus." For those curious, titus is a genus of scorpions from South America.
And they are also awesome.
They are. And they have a wide array of different colors on them. You know, crazy neon blue, and then they have like digital camouflage, like army digicami. Very cool bugs.
So let's see.
Did you just type in Vehovis or?
Yeah, I did. No, cat, get down. Damn it.
Meow.
Pain in the ass. So I mean, like, I guess body structure wise it's similar, but it's just odd because some of these other species, like they're more of like a glossier color, and you see bigger, like stockier chelicerae and What is this? That's Mexicanus. That's Vehovis mexicanus. It's just odd that that's Paravehovis, so that's not even like a true.
Yeah, those are Arizona, right?
I think so. Definitely out west somewhere.
Yeah.
Let's see. Phylogeographic study of the widespread southern devil's critter. Oh, okay. All right.
There you go.
I'll nibble.
Yeah. Take a gander.
Several studies have revealed cryptic spices. What? I think they meant species within the genus Vehovis in the southeastern USA. With this in mind, Matthew Graham and co-workers have conducted a thorough phylogeographic analysis of the more widespread species Vehovis carolinianus. The authors expected to find cryptic species in some of the different populations of this species, but the genetic analysis did not support this, even though several genetical clades were identified. All populations are the same species.
Really? That's still cool.
Why is this? I can't read.
That's all right.
It's so small. Southern Appalachians and adjacent provinces of the southeastern USA are geologically and biologically diverse with high levels of endemism. Phylographic analyses indicate that animals with small distributions in these regions often contain cryptic diversity and that Pleistocene climate fluctuations have significant impacts on their distributions. We studied the phylogeography of Vehovis carolinianus, a common forest scorpion from the region, to determine if a more widely distributed animal exhibits similar patterns. Mitochondrial and nuclear DNA, as well as species distribution models, were used to test biogeographic hypotheses.
So they're saying that because of Pleistocene era glacial movement, that's why we have devil scorpions on the East Coast.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, it makes sense. So there's two mountain ranges between them,
A highly disjunct population from Tunica Hills of Louisiana appears to have been isolated since the Pliocene, rejecting a hypothesis of late glacial migration along the Blufflands escarpment.
Okay.
Nuclear DNA is much less structured, perhaps due to the differences in habitat and dispersal capabilities between sexes, though mitochondrial lineages are quite old. Mitonuclear disordinance suggests that lineages have not sorted and that carolinianus should be treated as a single genetically diverse species.
Well, that's cool.
That's from 2020. That's actually from 2021.
Oh wow, nice.
So that's recent.
Very cool.
Can I open this and zoom in on it? No. Why would I be able to? So this chart has, let's see, what's Borden Springs? I have no idea where that is. This looks like it might be more so like the Louisiana, maybe like Oklahoma, Alabama side of things. I don't know. I don't think they get them in Oklahoma.
Okay.
Alabama, I believe they do. Huh.
Patrick says, just put a locality on yours, Smitty.
Don't tempt me. New Vehovis from Arizona. I don't know how long ago that is. That's pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
I love scorpions.
They're the best.
Do you ever get the urge to get some again?
I do. All the time.
What stops
Especially,
you from doing it?
Knowing myself, I would, if I had just one or two, I would probably neglect them. And if I had more than one or two, I would go down the slippery slope and end up with 100. So no bugs. maybe in the future, maybe if I get a hair up my butt, I will, you know. But I also like, not to sound one way or another, but I've had a lot of the Middle Eastern, North African stuff, which is clearly my favorite. And I don't know. I have fond memories of it. I enjoyed it. I think I need to just keep it at that because I don't want to. It's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work to have a lot of bugs. You know, everything's individually containered, having to feed everything individually containered.
Do you
I
get
don't know.
a lot of gracilis where you are?
Yeah, that's all we get. I'm too far.
Do you see them?
If I go looking for them, hell yeah. If I'm just out herping, never.
Got you.
Yeah. Like we have specific pine areas that we go and like we'll flip dead logs and like you almost have to have a black light because they blend in so damn well with all the dead stuff. You know, they're so dark. But I mean, crap, man. I think the best we had was like 12 or 13 in an hour.
Wow.
So we don't go looking for them enough. Yeah. Yeah.
So that paper is Pliocene origins, Pleistocene refugia, and post-glacial range expansions in southern devil scorpions.
Very cool.
I will have to pursue that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it is interesting. You wonder how you get just like a single species like that on the other side of the country.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Eat weeds and other things too. What?
So here, this is one of the gracilis that I kept. This is from Parkland, Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Got almost like a purple tinge to them.
Borden Springs is Alabama, Dustin said. I don't know. Keller has those stigmerus, and he's like, I'm going to have a bunch of babies. You guys want stigmerus? Let me know.
Yeah, I think the problem too is that a lot of the species of scorpions I want either cost an arm and a leg or they're just unobtainium, you know.
Yeah.
So,
well, do you find it? Because Florida doesn't have any sort of regulations on scorpions, right?
So technically they do. In fact, technically they have really steep regulations on non-native arthropoda. However, it's so obscure that no one cares, and it's not governed by Florida Fish and Wildlife. It's actually governed by the Department of Agriculture. So,
right, because I know like grasshoppers and things like that, they're super weird about.
Right. So at one point, when Phil was going bug crazy, Phil got a restricted arthropod license from the Florida Department of Agriculture.
Because aren't most phasmids like persona non grata?
Well, from what I learned is that as long as it is not an herbivore,
okay,
you're good to go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
With the exception of certain things, and that's because they deem it. First of all, it's crazy because you fill out this extensive form, right? And it's not just arthropods. It's the license is a license to possess, move, and distribute restricted arthropods, plant pathogens, and something else. I can't remember what the other one is. But you type out everything, right, in like an Excel spreadsheet, and then the biologist that signs off on it hand writes in the like margin next to each species yes or no and why it was a no. So like I had requested
at least they give you a reason, I guess.
Yeah, very, very much so. And I had requested like So the way it works is you can request. It's I can't remember how much money it was, but it was like
Adam, technically they're not bugs, so
yeah, right.
she can be anti-bug all she wants.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
not technically bugs.
So I think it's you can request. It's like $20 per species, up to 5, and then after 5 species, it's unlimited. So I had put one sheet, or I had paid for 5, and then when I got that approved, because there was only 5 slots, right? And when I got it approved, there was a letterhead saying, if you require more species, please see an attachment addendum, blah, 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 for at no extra charge per Florida Department. I was like, oh, really? So the rest are free. So I printed out a list of like 200 species and just like anything I would ever actually want. And there was, I think,
broke.
Yeah, right. There was like 12 different species of Dynastis, Hercules beetles. I had like 10 or 15 different species of mantids, like orchid mantids and the like. I had some roaches on there, some crazy, cool looking roaches. And basically, if it was a plant eater or a mantid, they said no. They just flat out no. I think the mantids, they were afraid of them eating too many native species, and then anything that was a plant eater, they're like no. I think it said this species may be detrimental to native plant life or something to that extent. But like all the centipedes, they approved all the centipedes, they approved all the scorpions, they approved like a handful of spiders, which I thought was wild. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. So yeah, I did have that license. I kept it for like 3 years, and then I wound up letting it lapse because there was no point. You know what I mean? There's no point. No one governs it. No one enforces it. You know.
Was it when we were talking to Dumas that he was talking about? Someone had mentioned maybe it was isopods or something having to go to the state bug person to see if they were actually what they were.
State entomologist?
Yeah.
For what? I don't remember now.
I don't remember, but we were talking about like if someone was selling some species of isopod or something, they had to send it to an entomologist to get verified.
Oh, really?
And I just remember that, like thinking, like I bet to see the stuff they probably see.
Oh yeah,
across their desk, man. Just
I imagine.
Speaking of isopods, so there's this one like it's not tin, it's one of those those umbrella stands that have like the sand in the bottom.
Yeah.
In like the different compartments.
Yeah.
I keep so the cover to one of those is on my parents in their backyard, and I lift that up and there's a couple of like big isopods in there. I don't know if it's like, I think armadillum or something is maybe the genus they're in.
Okay.
And I've been tempted to get some of those and culture them to see, because they look pretty neat. I mean, they're like the beefy kind. They're the little tank variety.
Legit roly-polies.
Yeah. But they got cool. Like the yellow, they got like these yellow spots at the base of each like armor plate, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Each segment. That's cool. Yeah, I think if I did go back to bugs, I would probably want to do 1 or 2 species in a pretty cool desktop like setup, you know.
Oh, I just figured I could get them and then make millions.
Like I like one of the things I always wanted to do was make a like those tall exoterras, or not exoterra. I think it's Zilla, or it might be Zoom Ed, where the painted glass in the front is all one piece. It's one door, not 2.
Yeah.
Do one of those, or even just like a really tall cube fish tank, like a 5-gallon cube fish tank, and do Liaris jordanensis, but have the mountain or the sculpture of Petra in the background.
Yeah.
Like I thought that would be super cool. I'd like put that on a desk. I think that'd be awesome. Have my own little Petra at home.
Maybe when I go over there tomorrow to top off mice, I'll get some of these guys. and then find out what they are. Because they've been there consistently the last couple times I've looked under that. Huh. Yeah, pictures are giving me nothing. There's entirely too many different kinds of these damn things.
Yeah, a lot. A lot, to say the least.
I don't know. I mean, if it's a species that would work out well with Bavarian stuff, I think they'd be ideal if you're dealing with something that you don't want to eat them because they're bigger, like they're a decent size isopod. Whatever the hell you call them, pill bug.
I'm sticking to roly-poly.
Carolina.com. Maybe it has some insight. I don't know.
I also want to get some. There's there's a lot of different species of opisthothalamus that I never kept, and some of them are like legit awesome tunnelers. And when I kept opisthothalamus, there was no excavator sand, so like we just kept them on sand and coconut husk mixed up, and they dug little divots, but they really didn't burrow like tunnel,
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I did get back into it, I would try and find one of the larger opisthothalamus species and then do excavator sand and just let them make like the underground mazes. I thought that would be really cool. And you could see
I
it, like,
did that
farm
with the dune scorpion that I had. I gave it excavator, and watching that thing just go to town building a burrow, man, it was wild.
That's cool.
That was a fun species. Like they're definitely
that's Smeringerus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely super high strung, super flighty, like not something you can play with by any means, because like you're probably definitely going to get stung, but
sure, or
man, like
pinched to hell.
Yeah, but watching those things go, and that's a species that you can't. They're not communal at all. Like you have to house those singly because they cannibalize like crazy.
Right.
But just setting up some excavator and letting it dry and watching that thing just dig and seeing like little bits of sand just flying out of the burrow and stuff as it's doing its thing.
That's awesome.
Like, it was cool as hell, dude. And it was just in the small like critter keeper, and you could see the burrow because it burrowed like along the sides, so you could like see inside that burrow when it was done. And that excavator clay, man, it worked perfectly for that. Like that thing went absolutely crazy.
That's great.
In that.
And then did you wet all the clay and just let it dry naturally, or did you just pour it in there loose?
No, I like wet it and like
made it rigid and
sloped
then
it in like one side,
okay,
kind of thing. And then I put some just sand in there and sand over it, and I think it was mostly dry by the time I put the dune in there. And it got straight to work.
Nice. That's awesome.
That was a fun species.
Yeah,
I enjoyed those.
Did you have the what is it? Palladus? No. The one that has like
Arizona Harries?
No, not that one. I'm talking about the Smeringerus that I don't know if it's a subspecies. They have black tips on the claws.
I don't think it was.
Okay. All right.
No. I did have a subspecies of Deathstalker.
Oh, really? Which one?
I think it was Judaicus.
You're talking about Hottentotta?
No. Let me look it up on my phone, not my computer.
Yeah, we had Underground got a shipment from Egypt, and we were going through them, and this one guy, Pete, who does all the bugs over there, he was there. I think it was actually, we got a shipment of Crassicauda. Maybe Crassicauda or maybe Androcnus bicolor, and there was one Hottentotta judaicus in there, and I was like, oh, that's coming home with me. And sadly, the thing died after a month, but it was still super cool to have that. Just a jet black Hottentotta with the super long claws. Gorgeous.
Yeah, that was a genus I never kept, but I always was very... Oh, I had Hebrius, that's why.
Okay. Hebrius. That's cool. That's super cool.
I guess those are their own species now. They're not even a subspecies.
Yeah, they elevated them. Yeah, what's there, 5 Liaris now?
Yeah, those things are serious, dude.
Yeah, super cool. Super cool. Well, it's almost at the 2-hour mark. I'm getting sprayed with sideways rain. Is there anything else you wanted to touch base on, sir, before we wrap this one up?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, I'm glad we got our technical difficulties under control.
I think we bored everyone enough with our James Bond talk and nerd out. So
yeah.
But I'm always down to nerd out about scorpions. So
hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. We got to get more scorp people on.
We do.
We do.
This episode was brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. I wasn't here when Phil first said it, but check them out. Facebook, Instagram, use code THN at checkout to save yourself a little bit of money. If you're in the general Southeast region, you can save yourself some money on shipping and just pick up straight from BlackBox when you place an order. And then you need to go and check out the fine folks at Puget Sound Pythons. Go give them a follow on Facebook and Instagram as well. Follow on Morph Market. They are getting married soon, so buy some cool stuff from them and help them pay for that wedding, because weddings ain't cheap. When are you getting married?
I have no idea.
When is this happening?
I don't know. It'll happen.
All right. We'll be back Thursday for THP one-on-one. I think we're gonna overall talk about the trip. Have Jake's. I want to hear what happened after I had left. You know, some of the stuff they found. Because they found a Nerodia like 6 feet up a tree or something. I think
really?
Randomly in the middle of the woods or something. I don't know. It'd be interesting.
That's cool.
So we'll see. But it'll be good. So we will see everybody there. Thank you. We'll see you later.
Bye.